How's it going, boys? The Trigham's back, and we're back at it again with another video. And this one is going to be the anti-tank mage build. 2 weeks ago, the champion of the tournament was a heavy sword and shield warhammer, and you guys know how mega powerful that build can be in 1v1s. At the end of the tournament, I asked the person if he wanted to duel, and we proceeded to win that duel with our, unique mage build. And a lot of you were asking, how is this build even possible, right? How can a mage beat a heavy tank, sword and shield? But worry not, I will tell you guys everything that you need to know about this build and how it works. And this build might be a little bit popular in the upcoming weeks, because you guys know with the popularity and the recent changes to the light armors that are coming in the PTR, probably a lot more people are going to move away from light and or start playing heavy armor more often. Now, this build not only works against tanks, but it works pretty much against any melee class. The only downside of this build is that it's not going to work very well against range classes, all right? This build is specifically designed to combat melee players and sword and shield warhammer, like the tanky players and the melee players, but it's not very good for, and against the range classes. But without making this any longer, let's go into it. For this build, I will be utilizing 300 intelligence and 200 constitution. This one is still pretty much the baseline for every single one of my builds. 200 constitutions give us the defenses that we need to be able to trade against some of these classes. And especially as a light player, right? As a light player, we don't have a lot of defenses because our armor is relatively weak. And on the next patch is going to become even weaker. So not having 200 constitution, where you get 10% increase to physical and elemental armor, is going to be a very, very big deal. So probably on the next patch, I recommend the 200 constitution even more than I recommend it now. And obviously, we are going to go full intelligence, since both our weapons are scaling with intelligence. For the weapons mastery, the skill tree, this is how it's going to look. For the Ice Gauntlet, the main ability for this build is going to be Windshield. Windshield is going to be our most important ability, and I'll explain to you guys why is it that Windshield is the most important ability against melee players and against tanks. We're gonna make our way down to Ultimate Shield, because Ultimate Shield will affect both our Windshield and Ice Storm as soon as we put it down. And on the right side, we're going to go ahead and pick Entomb, obviously. Entomb is going to be also very important for this build. We want to get Defiant Freeze, so we can get those resistances for a little bit of time after we put down an ice ability, such as Ice Storm or a Windshield if we use it and we get a couple of left clicks in the face while we at it. We are also going to be picking Frozen Touch. I know nobody ever picks this, but I think it's kind of funny with this build, because other than that, we really cannot put any other points anywhere else. I guess you could put it in Quick Frost, but it's not that big of a deal. All right, that's pretty much how it's gonna look for the Ice Gauntlet. Now let me show you guys on the Blunderbuss. Now on the Blunderbuss, you guys see that I'm going all the way down to double down, and this is very important for this build, because the rotation of this build, you either start with a net shot or you can start with any of this ability. And since we're doing it against melee players and tank players, we want to be cycling through our abilities quite fast and often. Splitting Grenades is going to be probably our main damage with this build, next to the Blizzard. Shrapnel Blast is very strong, because Shrapnel Blast shreds through the armor of the shield, right? The stamina damage. He has insane amount of stamina damage. And on top of that, he has the Ace of Bomb at the end that he cannot be blocked. So if you use a Shrapnel Blast in the tank's face, you will be doing a lot of stamina damage. And also the Ace of Bomb that is left on the ground will do damage to the tank. And obviously the Splitting Grenades will always do damage to the tank, even if they are blocking or not. And the net shot, it's just, you guys know how good the net shot is. And this is how this build is looking like. We're not going to go with Unload, because we're not looking on doing a lot of persistent and burst damage. We want to do more abilities, right? It's not going to be about our basic attack as much. It's going to be mostly about our abilities. And well, that is for the Ice Gauntlet and the Blunderbuss abilities. And I'll also show you guys the attributes. For the armor on this build, there's one piece of armor that is the one that I recommend the most, and that is going to be something like Empower and Breaker. Empower and Breaker for this build is pretty much mandatory. A lot of people do not understand the real power of Empower and Breaker. When your attacks are blocked, you get a stack of Empower, increasing your damage by 4% for 5 seconds. 5 stacks maximum. I know that, you know, again, a lot of you might not know how this specifically works. So basically, if somebody is blocking your attacks, you will get more damage. In this case, since this video is mostly against tanks, right? And they will be using Sword and Shield. You guys know that the basic attack of the blunderbuss, it is going to be 6 bullets. And every single one of those bullets is considered a different identity of its own, right? So it's like a different attack. So one shot of the blunderbuss is considered 6 basic attacks. And if a Sword and Shield is blocking and you have Empower and Breaking on your gear, one shot of the blunderbuss will immediately put you on 5 stacks of Empower and Breaker. Therefore, if the enemy tank blocks one of your basic attacks with the blunderbuss, you will immediately get 20% increased damage. And the good thing about Empower and Breaker is that it is a armor perk, meaning that you can cycle between both your weapons, like swap weapons, and this empowering will never go away. So this is why Empower and Breaker is the #1 perk that we want for this build. Besides Empower and Breaker, the only other weapon perk that I would recommend is something like Unending Thought, because we're going to be using Unending Thought on top of the enemy a lot, right? We're going to be using the Blizzard on top of the enemy a lot. So that extra 2 seconds after they leave the Blizzard, you know, it's just a little bit of slow. It's not that big of a deal. You can play without it, but it's something that will be very nice if you could add it to your combo. On the Ice Gauntlet, you want Unbroken Winds 100%. We could have Unbroken Wind on the gear, but the damage is significantly lower, right? Windshield has grit and deals 40% more damage, right? The reason that we have it on the weapon is the main reason that we do so much stamina damage. That 40% increased damage on the windshield is so important, because that 40% increased damage also affects the stamina damage. And the stamina damage is, like I said, is the main reason why we are using Windshield. Windshield is the only mage ability from all of our mage's weapons like Light Staff, Fire Staff, Ice Gauntlet, and Void Gauntlet that deals a substantial amount of stamina damage. On top of that, it gives you that nice grit, meaning that if the enemy comes in with a leap, they will not be able to stagger you. If the enemy hits you with Wrecking Ball, they will not be able to flatten you, all right? They can still hit you with a Shockwave, and they can still hit you with a Shield Bash, but the Shockwave, we see it coming from very far away, and it's quite easy to avoid. And the Shield Bash, if you're hitting them with a windshield, unless they are literally on top of your face, they will not be able to hit you with a Shield Bash because you are constantly pushing them back. On top of that, if the enemy comes in with a leap in the middle of the air and you're using Unbroken Winds, you guys know that leap does not have grit. So they are literally pushed back in the middle of the air animation. So that leap will never, ever reach you. If you're using Windshield, Shield Rush will not stagger you. And that's why Windshield is such an important tool in this build. The Ice Gauntlet that I'm using right here is called the Wave Break. This is a farmable item from the big brute looking guys in Castrum, you know, the elite place that is in Brimstone Sand, all the way down south. So if you go there and do your daily elite run, you will have a chance on getting the Wave Break. It has Unbroken Winds, Refreshing Move, and Keen. Really, you don't care about the other 2 perks other than Unbroken Winds, because we're going to be doing some light attacks or heavy attacks here and there. Refreshing Move will come in handy. Unbroken Wind is obviously, we need to have it there mandatory. The 3rd perk, we have Keen there, but it doesn't really matter. If you could have Enchanted, if you could have Frost Attunement, it will be even better, but probably that will be a crafted item, or you might need to find it in the marketplace. But this one is completely free. You can go farm it, and this one it's more than enough for this build. For the blunderbuss, I'm still using the Exhausted Nepshot, Keenly Empower, and Flame Attunement. The reason I'm using that Flame Attunement, Obviously, it's because the splitting grenades, you know, every time they explode, they will hit the enemy with a flame attunement. And the way that we kill tanks is not really bursting them down. It's actually cheaping down their health quite fast. Exhaust and net shot, this is very, very, very powerful and strong. Because if they, by any chance, they run out of stamina, you hit them with a net shot and they will not be able to get their stamina back as quickly, right? And that's all they want to do is get their stamina back so they can start blocking again. Or on top of that, if they, in one of their, you know, if you get a little bit of distance and they drop down their block, you can hit them with a net shot in that moment. And then, you know, go ahead and punish them while they are in the effect of the net shot. I still recommend the net shot on the blunderbuss 100% of the time for a small scale PvP and single target combat. On my chest piece of armor right here, I do have sturdy energy because we're going to be doing a lot of blocking with the Ice Gauntlet. The Ice Gauntlet is a wonderful, phenomenal blocking tool, and it's all because of blocking stamina. Blocking an attack with the Ice Gauntlet will convert mana to stamina, converts 3 mana to 15 stamina. Now, this does have a cooldown. It doesn't mean that you can sit there with the block and constantly sacrifice your mana for stamina, but it has, I think it's like a 1 or 2 second cooldown. You can tank significant amounts of damage with the Ice Gauntlet compared to any other of the magical weapons. And even though if you run out of stamina, you will always have the ice block there as a, you know, as a cheap tool to survive and gain your stamina back. And with the chest, it says when blocking a hit below 30% stamina, you gain a 40% increased stamina regeneration for 6 seconds. This effect is removed if the player becomes exhausted. Exhausted meaning that if you run out of stamina, this effect will be removed. Now, since we'll be blocking a lot of sword and shield attacks against those, you know, heavy sword and shield Warhammer, there's going to be a very, very, very high chance that you will be able to successfully block a basic attack whenever you're below 30% stamina, and then at that moment you will stop using you will stop using the block, use one of your abilities or whatnot, or roll backwards. Well, actually you wouldn't be able to roll because you're already at 30% stamina. So if you roll, you actually will get exhausted and this effect will go away. So wait until it goes, you know, above 50% stamina, then you can roll, but you still have that stamina regeneration for 6 seconds. So like I said, the 3 perks that I recommend for the gear, primarily number 1 is going to be the Empower and Breaker. This is our MVP perk right here. Then something like Sturdy Energy will come in handy if you utilize your blocking to the best of its ability. And the 3rd perk, it will be Unending Thought, just so you can slow the target as they're getting out of the storm for those 2 seconds and give you the opportunity to land a heavy attack to freeze them in place, or just to slow them in general. Other than that, I don't have anything else special on my gear, right? It's just pretty much the same. For my amulet, I'm using stamina recovery, health, and divine. This is, you guys know, this is my staple, you know, my staple amulet that I use most of the times. For my ring, I'm still using the Champion's Ring, and for the amulet, I'm using regenerating healthy toes and refreshing toes. Those are my preferred you know, perks for the earring. Although I've been looking for something like refreshing toes, healthy toes, and nimble. I do want to try nimble and see exactly how it feels. I have never been a nimble user, but I want to try to use nimble to see how it feels. Okay, for the consumables, if you are in a tournament or something like that, the Old Flesh Bomb is going to be your best friend whenever you are open and you know that you cannot avoid one of their abilities, or you know that you're going to get a couple of hits because you ran out of stamina. Then Old Flesh Bomb is going to be your best friend in that situation. Pop it before the enemy can burst you down, and you will be able to survive their entire burst, because we know that that is how heavy sword and shield works. They do a little bit of shield damage, but whenever they hit you with that shield rush, then it's followed by a shield bash, then it's followed by a flattening, which is wrecking ball, then a shockwave, then a cleared out, followed by a basic attack. So that entire burst, unless that you have Old Flesh Bomb, you will not be able to survive it. Now, the second way that you can survive their burst is thanks to the blunderbuss. Have in mind that whenever you RCC, you can swap weapons in the middle of the CC, well, URCC, right? Let's say that you get hit by a shield bash. The game actually allows you to swap weapons while under the CC, all right? So if the enemy hit you with a stun lock and you have the ice gauntlet out, you can swap to the blunderbuss in the middle of the CC chain. And why am I saying you should switch to the blunderbuss in the middle of the CC chain? Well, because of last chance. If you are getting hit by that mega CC chain that is more likely than not is going to take you from 100 to 0, you swap to the blunderbuss, and now the moment that you drop below 50% health, you will get that 50% damage reduction for 4 seconds. This is very, very useful. This is the main way that you will be surviving all of their killing bursts. If you don't have the blunderbuss out whenever you are getting super CC chain, more likely than not, you will not survive it. If you were not able to use the old flesh bomb, the blunderbuss will always have your back, at least as long as you do this every 30 seconds. And that pretty much does it for the abilities, attributes, the gears and perks that I'm utilizing. Oh, before I forget, for the hard runes, believe it or not, the one that I recommend against tanks will be the cunning bio bomb, right? Because the enemy can block the cannon shots, although they do a very nice stamina damage. They can block your cannon shots, they can block detonate, they can block the hard runes, the grasping vines, and if you use the storm form, yeah, you will give yourself a little bit of survivability, but between those things you really have nothing else. Actually, like I said, the one that I recommend is the bio bomb, because the bio bomb cannot be blocked, right? Since it's like a poison acid, right? The big poison bomb. So the damage over time, they will also be getting hit by that. They're going to be crippled, meaning that their movement speed is reduced by 20%. And on top of that, they will be exhausted, meaning that their stamina regeneration is decreased by 30%, which is a very big deal because, again, it's heavy sword, you know, a heavy tank, sword and shield. They relied mostly on their stamina, so they can block most of the attacks. So yeah, that does it pretty much for all of the gear pieces and stuff. Now let's go ahead and talk about the rotation and how do we actually play this build. So for the rotation, it's going to be, obviously this is going to be situational always, because we won't be fighting the same person over and over again. And even if we do, the enemy always adapts, right, to whatever your game style is. But this is pretty much going to be on average how you always start the fight. So you will hit them with a net shot, and then you will try to put a blizzard on top of them. Now just look at the positioning of my blizzard, right? You want to put the blizzard in a way that you can actually be on top of the blizzard, and both of you be on top of the blizzard, right? If you are here and the enemy is over there, and you were to use the blizzard right there, he will move out of that blizzard and he will not take any damage at all. He'll probably get hit by like 2-3 times, and that's about it. But if you use the blizzard and you try to maintain yourself and the enemy on top of the blizzard, you can put the blizzard between the two of you, and now you can block with that ice gauntlet, as I was saying before. That way the tank or the melee is getting all of that blizzard damage, right? And on top of that, as soon as you use the blizzard, you can follow it out with the splitting grenades. Again, this is so many ways that we can start this combat, but the way that you want to use your blizzard is so you are pretty much in one end of the blizzard and the enemy is in the other end of the blizzard, and now you have all of this room to play around. If by any chance the tank or the target just walks out of the blizzard and he does not want to approach you because you had the blizzard on top of you, well, that is whenever you will switch to the blunderbuss and then throw the splitting grenades on their feet. They have two choices: either they block the splitting grenades, which they cannot, or they will do a roll because they don't want to get hit by the splitting grenades. And whenever they do a roll is when you're going to start using the windshield, because now the windshield, since they already use a roll, that means that they use like 50% of their stamina. If you use the windshield will actually do insane amount of damage to them. But if they decide to block the windshield, then you will destroy your armor. If they decided to start running away and not block the windshield or come damage to you, then it is when you're going to be doing some heavy attacks with the ice gauntlet, or switch to the blunderbuss and hit him with that net shot. So because it's not blocking or anything, he's just running, right? And then that is obviously what we want, hitting them with that net shot. Another way that you can start the fight is, like I say, hit them with a net shot and throw splitting grenades immediately to their feet, right? If you throw splitting grenades immediately to their feet, you will see what type of tank this guy is. If he doesn't dodge him and he's just holding the block, you know that this guy is going to be an easy target. Now, the good tanks, obviously, they will roll away from the grenades either backward or sideways, not towards you. Because if they roll towards you, now, like I said, you can go ahead and hit it without wind chill in the face. If the tank is on top of you, you could always, like I said, hit him with the blizzard and then switch to the splitting grenades, basic attack, shrapnel blast. And try to do a lot of damage on their feet with the shrapnel blast, both the grenades, right? The wind shield will be utilized, like I said, as a way to push him away from you and to deal a lot of stamina damage. And it makes you immune to the leap, it makes you immune to the shield rush, it makes you immune to wrecking ball. Now, you could utilize all these 6 abilities quite fast, because most of these abilities cool down it's rather quickly, right? You have the blizzard, which is on like 19 seconds, but if you use wind shield while on top of the blizzard, the cooldown of the blizzard will be greatly decreased. Then between splitting grenades and the other shit, and you always have ice block, right? Here I am using ice block, and as you can see, blizzard is basically ready to go. The same with the wind shield, so you can come over here with a net shot, hit him with a blizzard, close in, maybe like a heavy attack. Go ahead and use the wind shield. If they use all of their stamina, then go ahead and send the splitting grenades, basic attack, shrapnel blast, and whenever you have the bio bomb, just go ahead and use it. Really, just do not hold onto the bio bomb. Whenever you have it ready, just go ahead and use it. So once again, the fight pretty much will start with a net shot, a blizzard between the top of you. You will hit them with a wind shield if they want to come to you. If they are on your face, you can go ahead and block. And if you see that you're about to run out of stamina, then obviously you're gonna use the ice block and get all your stamina back. Remember that whenever you are exiting the ice block, always exit with a left click. All right, the reason always you should exit with a left click is because you get 25% damage reduction whenever you exit the ice block with a left click. On top of that, it deals a little bit of damage to the enemy, so you can go ahead, get out of the ice block with a left click, and then proceed to, you know, send a blizzard or once again the wind shield out. And whenever you have the splitting grenades and shrapnel blast, make sure to use it. Just don't risk it too much with the shrapnel blast, because you might get shield bash in the face. Now, that is their main ability. If the enemy does not have shield bash because they just used it and it's on cooldown, just know that you have at least 10 to 15 seconds to go crazy, go wild, be an animal, right? Just be careful with the Warhammer CC abilities. If you get hit by the shockwave, then well, you messed up. If you get hit by the wrecking ball, well, you messed up as well. But those abilities are usually, you can see them coming. The only one that is very hard for you to avoid is the shield bash, because it's pretty instant. And if you get hit by the shield rush and the enemy has shield bash on cooldown, I mean off a cooldown, you're gonna get hit by that shield bash immediately quick. Now, here is a tip or a trick. Whenever you use a blizzard, you need to roll mandatory before you can use windshield. This is a game problem that we've been experiencing for a very long time. If you use the blizzard and you try to use windshield without rolling, the game forces you to wait 2 seconds before you can use windshield. Like, look at this. I will be using the storm and then I will be spamming windshield, and you guys will see the long amount of time that it requires for you to be able to utilize the windshield after the storm. And take a look at this. Look how many times I'm pressing windshield, and then it's when it comes out. So to avoid this problem, you can either do windshield first and then the storm. But if you do use the storm first before the windshield, you can roll and use the windshield right away, and you will be able to use that windshield basically immediately, right? And as you can see right there, by using the windshield on top of the ice storm, basically put these 2 abilities on the same cooldown, which is very short. As you guys can see right here, look at that cooldown of the windshield, and the blizzard will always pretty much have the same cooldown. The only difference, like 2-second difference. And in between, obviously, you can use the ice block to avoid the CCs or whenever you run out of stamina. And you can be inside of the ice block until your other abilities are off cooldown, and you can go ahead and rinse and repeat and burst, not burst, but just wither them away. And believe me, this is so mega powerful. against any melee class, against any sword and shield tank player. This is the only way that we mages will be able to eliminate those pesky tanks. Now I will show you guys some of the playstyle and some clips on me using this build on some of the PvPs and including the tournament that happened 2 weeks ago. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hey, give it a like or sub, right? I'm always making this type of videos whenever I have a little bit of time. I have a couple of good videos that are coming next week. Just stay tuned for those, boys, and cheers. Okay. No way he used... Okay. Dude, I have memory leak badly, boys. Look at this memory leak. Lucky, dude.